Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Pack of Mics and Fire. I'm Brian, and I'm joined, as always, by Ryan. Ryan, how you doing?
Brian, I'm doing great. I actually just finished the episode. It was very exciting to say the least. A couple surprises. Got a lot to talk about. I'm very excited.
Yeah, good episode. I don't know if this podcast is every other week or if we'll get better, but for now, we're here. We're on episode 4. Definitely the biggest episode of the season so far, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe you can argue the first episode, but I think this one was pretty crazy, pretty impactful. And I guess where do you want to start, Ryan? What are your opening thoughts here about this episode?
Well, we could compare the first and the fourth. I mean, one thought that just came to mind from that is so in the first episode, right, we do see it's the first we see blood being shed, but also we see the internal conflicts of the two sides, right? That's all, it's like these two families within each other are fighting. That's this whole thing, right? Everyone's Targaryen. But even within the two sides, there's so much internal conflict. And I think we saw much more of that internal conflict at the end of this episode, as well as the consequences, right? It was also the first time we saw the dragons come into play. Um, so yeah, I would say episode 4, we kind of right. Episode 1 kind of set the table for everything that was happening, and I think episode 4 was probably the biggest dinger we had so far. Right, Rhaenyra loses. Pro, I think at this point, especially with Damon estranged, I would say Rhaenys is pro. That's the name, right? Rhaenys. Sometimes the
Rainey's,
names are. Yep,
yeah,
yep.
Rainey's.
I thought so. So I feel like Rhaenys was probably her wisest counselor at this point, right? She's lost her. Uh, and obviously we have Aemond betraying Aegon.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think you're definitely right. I mean, wisest counselor, biggest supporter on the council, the person who
Mhm.
backed up Renera the most. We saw definitely some tension in this episode because she was off, mourning Luke a little bit more, mourning the fact that she would have to engage in this war, and there was really no other option coming off of the end of last episode where she had a conversation with Allison, which, the scene itself very good. The setup a little silly that she would be able to get there and get out without anything happening to her, but that's fine. It happened, and I think I think they really wanted to establish like Renera has looked at this every possible way. There's no way to avoid war. She's not running headlong into this. This war is going to cost a lot of people. I mean, we've seen how destructive it is for
Mhm.
just a normal person when a dragon's just breathing fire onto you, but it's also going to cost the dragons. I mean, that's the whole point of the show, right? Like, this is the Targaryens not only wiping themselves out of power by getting rid of most of the dragons, but showing, we saw in the preview for the next episode, they're parading Melis's head through, King's Landing, showing people that the dragons are vulnerable, something that probably to this point was not even in the realm of possibilities for like a regular person, and that will pay off later. Obviously you've read the books, but I mean, I'm sure, you know as Rhaenyra has said, they're inviting their own doom if they involve the dragons, but they're not going to not use the dragons.
Of
So
course.
it's sad. I think, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but watching the dragon fight, like, it's cool, but it's also sad.
Oh, I guess it's kind of like what what is it? It's like animal cruelty a little bit.
Yeah,
No,
right.
well, for sure, but no, I think so I do remember going back from the books, like, I believe it even says that Allison and right, it's a different version of books, Allison and Rhaenyra don't have the TV show, and I
Mhm.
think it still says both of them are the type of people, despite their animosity towards each other, they've lived during a long reign of peace. They want to exhaust all of their options.
Mhm.
However, right, we clearly see that Allison reacted pretty emotionally, right? I think we see multiple like kind of indicators here that was her assumption that Viserys was talking about her son Aegon a little silly.
Mm.
Yeah, probably. But
Right. Yeah.
right, she acted on it. So many things are in motion now. She can't admit she's wrong. There's no moving backward, right? Especially even if Allison is wise enough to do that, we know Aegon's too far in, right? We know Aemon is too far in, right? With the most powerful dragon, Kristen Cole. Um, there's just no moving back at this point, right?
Yeah.
And we actually see in this episode, Allison makes her own peace with that. That it really doesn't matter what Viserys wanted, right? Because he's dead. So we're moving forward like this. And I think Aemon and Kristen Cole are killing it right now.
Yeah.
Literally and metaphorically, right? We see like Kristen does pretty much exactly what he plans to, but at the end of the episode, it reaps dire consequences I don't think he was aware of, right? We do know he is the kingmaker. He made Aegon the king. That there's no doubt that Kristen Cole, I think, is a bit of a psycho,
Mhm.
but I don't necessarily know if he has that cold, callous, just is going to want to kill Aegon, like
No,
Aemon does. He was
he was
shocked, yeah. Clear.
horrified that happened to
At
Aegon.
first, when there was that action scene, it did go back to Cole, and I was kind of like, "Huh, did Cole know this was a possibility?" Then it was very clear, no, and right, and they make it even more obvious by we see Aemon. I thought it was pretty well done. We see Aemon have his sword drawn, and Cole's just like, "Aemon, you fucking nutty
Yeah.
bastard!" And Aemon just has that perfect smirk where he's like, "Fair enough, caught red-handed," and he just like puts it back. I don't know. Yeah. And he's like, he knows Cole's not going to do anything about it, right?
Yeah.
And he just goes away, and he just walks away. Yeah, Cole is clearly devastated. I mean, yeah, it's just all the consequences of their actions, right? And everyone, and the reason Allison and Rhaenyra didn't want this to happen is because they knew tons of innocents were going to die, and that's part of is Aegon. Very little regard for the masses, it seems. I think that's fair to say. I don't really know about Aemond. I would even say Kristen Cole, I definitely don't, not that he, disregards the masses, but he comes from a peasant background, somewhat of a peasant background himself. I think the son of a steward. So he doesn't necessarily have that that more global way of thinking Viserys probably had through his grandfather, and then tried to bestow upon Rhaenyra, right? He's just reacting more. He's doing what it takes to win. He's not really thinking of what are the grand consequences of this.
Yeah, and I can get Sir Christian Cole's like strategy here of like cut Dragonstone off from the mainland, but also attack the houses of her council to cause strife. There's already so much strife within the Black Council, but
he does. It's really well executed, right? He takes out people of their small council, and he cuts them off, which there are ways around it, but it takes them a while to figure it out. So by the time they figure out, wait, why is he going after? It's not one of the Rook's? Yeah, Rook's Rest. Yeah. They're like, why is he going after Rook's Rest? It's like, oh, because that's gonna cut us off entirely.
Yeah.
Then I believe he knows that's going to prompt a dragon to come out, right? And we see that because we also see. I thought Aemond. I thought it was a really cool shot when they showed Vega rise out of like the woodland. Mm-hmm. Like that was really cool. Plan that. Obviously, what they didn't plan for was Aegon, and I thought it was there's a lot of interesting stuff with Aegon there. you know, like for instance, like his brother speaking to him, and
In Valerian.
yeah, Valyrian and Aegon clearly doesn't really know what's going on. It's a bit
Mhm.
of a
Snegon, we've all been there, called on in class to
yeah.
answer in a foreign language and just trying to, get through it as much as you can. So relatable there.
He's like, "Si los dos no baños." Yeah, no, it does have kind of that feel. And even before that, right? Eamon's just kind of like, "No, this is what we're doing," and
Yeah.
he's like, "All right, so you guys basically just went over my head and are treating me like a idiot." And he just looks at him like, kind of like, "Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly what it
Yes.
is."
Yeah.
All right, we
Uh,
see where Allison's at, where she's kind of conflicted, and I think she is a little guilty, and she is like, you know, should I put this kid on the throne? And clearly it hasn't worked in the way. She's still spiteful. Her father's off counsel. She doesn't have much counsel. He doesn't really respect her at all. But this version of Aegon, what is interesting, he does very much, I think, still care about his mother. He wants
mhm,
his mother to love him.
mhm.
He wants to be loved, you know, just despite a lot of kinks, you know, I do think he just wants to be loved. And he goes to his mother afterwards, and she just has no patience for him. And she kind of tells him the honest to God truth that I think hurts him the most, which is the best thing you can do is absolutely nothing. You are a
Yeah.
placeholder, and that is it. Uh,
Yeah. Bad, and obviously hindsight is 2020, of course, but bad move here by the blacks to not more, convince Aegon like you're very important to the war effort, but your claim is more important
yeah,
than anything.
that is,
Your claim is the whole reason this is happening. So just like you have to stay here because if you die, all of this is for nothing, and we're all gonna die because we've openly rebelled against Rhaenyra. So bad there. I mean, Lair's tried to get him to stay. When Laris saw him in the last episode, like suiting up, he, manipulated him into just hanging around,
mhm.
which was good. Unfortunately, Laris couldn't get here. Interesting episode from Laris. I think, he obviously took note of what is it, the tea of the morning that
100%.
Allison was drinking. Um, but I think he was a little surprised too when he was like, oh, like, don't you care about Christian Cole and he might die? And Allison was like, well, and he was like, oh, okay, maybe not a relationship I can exploit as much as I originally thought. What did you think of Allison's reaction to Sir Christian Cole there versus, in the last few episodes? I guess like a little bit of like, she's sleeping with him, but every time she does, she just like hates herself more and
There's
more.
very much a love hate relationship. I think there's a little right. She kind of knows at this point how what a big position Cole plays now. But
Mhm.
I think she kind of knows that um, there. How do I say this? Um, Basically, that like uh, I lost my train of thought
That's
completely, and
right.
I
What I
apologize for
want to
that.
say about
No,
Christian Cole is he's very interesting because, like, we've gone over. He's like the White Knight, classically handsome, but also like such a dick. Like he's
yeah,
less like an incel personality, despite being like super
yeah,
handsome and like everything. And also, on the other hand, very loyal and good at leading war. Like he might not be the easiest pill to swallow for his men. You saw Allison's brother kind of being like, can we chill for a second? We've just like done a ton of battles, and him being like, no, we have to do this now. But I also think the show is going out of its way to be like, what Christian Cole is doing is right and smart and probably winning the war for the Greens right now. But he
yeah,
is just such an asshole.
yeah. So sorry, when I was kind of
Your mic, can you try to reconnect? Try reconnecting it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So what I was trying to say previously, I lost my train of thought for a sec, was that I think Allison has, kind of come to the unfortunate conclusion that she doesn't hold a lot of influence right now. Kind of like Chris and Cole, Aegon and Aemon are going to do what they're going to do at this point. I think she's kind of there's a certain coming to terms with her relationship with Cole as it is right now, where it's kind of like, yeah, I pretty much am just fucking this guy because I'm kind of lost and I'm just giving into what I want, and that's it. And I think there's part of her that knows, right, all the good things you said as well as all the bad things.
Mhm.
So I think it makes sense to me. She's kind of like, yeah, because if he comes back, she'll probably fuck him, and she knows that, right? And she doesn't feel
Right.
great, and she likes that, but she doesn't feel great about it.
Yeah,
And
she
and
knows.
if he dies, I mean,
yeah, it takes
there's
it away.
I think
Solves the problem.
I think there's a little there'll be some lack of safety and all of that, but like, yeah. So I that's why I think she's pretty indifferent to it. I kind of wonder if Laris is like, I think Laris just always likes to let everyone know, like, my fingers in your pie. Like,
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're doing. He's like, oh,
Mhm.
by the way, like, I'm still down for the only
Yeah.
feeds.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
he's like, I'm kind of pissed. Like, it sucks. I have a club foot and I can't
Mhm.
sleep with really hot chicks like you. But hey, I get it. You want to? I'm cool with you sleeping with a super handsome dude. I'm
Mhm.
down for that. I'm down for those feet.
Yeah. So let's see. The other I think big thing was the acknowledgement by Rhaenys that Alan is not just the person who saved Corlys, but
Mhm.
also his bastard. As hinted at in the previous episodes with him and his brother, that they're, Corlys's bastards, with, his brother saying he owes Alan for more than just the saving him.
Yeah, I would say
But this
so.
was just the show being like, yes, 100%.
And he's his bastard. They didn't.
Yeah,
I mean, they pretty much did say it directly. She does everything Catelyn Stark, but she does say everything Catelyn Stark wasn't willing to say, which
that is
is
true.
it's not his fault. I'm pissed about it, but
Yeah,
you should give him the rewards. Don't
yeah,
you know? Yeah, it is interesting how they went about it with these guys. I know in the books it's more kind of like implied he's probably their bastards. He does acknowledge them as Valyrians, but I don't think it's
yeah.
he
After
ever
she dies, yeah.
after she dies. But right, it's to be assumed. I mean, honestly, it's kind of shocking that it would take her that long to find out. Rhaenys is a very smart lady.
Mhm.
And we do see that is another thing we didn't talk about, right? We did Rhaenys, her as his counselor, to Rhaenyra, at least quietly, right? But we know how the men of Westeros think. They tend to respond more to the symbol of power, usually through a male, and we kind of see the command that the sea snake still commands right when he walks into that room, and they're
Mhm.
like, "Oh shit!" Now, it's like when there's a substitute teacher and like a bunch of seventh graders are just
Yeah.
acting really shitty, and the dude, like the principal, or whoever walks
Mhm.
in, and everyone's just like, "That's really how it was with the sea snake." So I do kind of wonder if they'll use this a little bit for the sea snake to, kind of reassert himself a bit again. And if you know the books, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him and his bastard sons.
Yeah. I mean, it's especially interesting with Laner having, potentially died. I mean, I think that's what it was implying when Sea Smoke earlier in the season was like seeming very distraught, and they like made a note of that in the second episode. But we don't want to spoil stuff for people who haven't read the books, or at least like dance around it. But these are all things the show is putting flags in for the viewers.
And we will say what's interesting, what the show tells us outward, like the show decides to tell us a lot of stuff the books don't necessarily. There's
Yeah,
conflicting opinions, there's some implications. We don't officially ever know, actually.
unreliable narrators.
Yeah, we don't know that the sea snake is their father in the books. It's actually I believe it's mostly claimed that they're Laener's bastard sons.
I think that was to get around him having to admit. Uh,
Well,
but
but I think people
Laener's
did.
much older.
No, so Pete, yeah, Laener's older in the books, and also he is around the shipyard, and because of the connection, some people do say that. But it's more that's like it. It basically says that that is likely a rumor that was projected to mask the fact. But I just
Yeah,
mean a lot of people aren't very akin to this fact that he is their son. That Adam and Alan are his sons, but it's pretty. We
yeah,
can kind of assume.
yeah. And in the show, one, very similar in age, and two, I feel like most people in the kingdom would be like, be so serious right now. They're Laenor's children. No. Your mic disconnected again.
Sorry about that. Like even reading the
Okay.
books, I remember I reread it and I was like, well, obviously they're not Laenor's kids. Like, come on, that dude was like just,
Yeah, right.
you know,
Yeah,
I'm sure there's some Oberons in the world in this world for sure, right? And then there's I think Laenor's pretty much established himself as
yeah,
I mean right, we know that he had multiple opportunities. And the show spells it out for us more.
yeah.
As where in the books it's kind of uh, the strong boys, they're not. It's never fully admitted that they're bastards, right?
Mhm.
Because obviously they're gonna cover that up. But we're watching it happen in live action, and I mean it is pretty obvious. Like
Yeah.
there's no way in the book that they're not.
Mm. Yeah, I think the book really likes to do like could be this, could be that,
But it's
on
probably
it. But
this.
but the show's like we can't do. We need to just let people know because people will not understand
Yeah,
unless
and
unless we literally have Rainey's like holding Alan's face
well,
and
yeah,
then being like, I know Corliss.
well, how do you do like a history thing? Like it could have been this, it
Yeah,
could have been that, and just like
yeah.
close the door. We know they're not going to do that.
Mm. Because like in the books, Rhaenyra's mother has black hair instead of silver hair because she's an Arryn. So like that's like the in-universe explanation to why her boys might have black hair. It's
But
it's all like stuff like that.
it's pretty weak. I mean,
Yeah.
if we know because she has blonde hair,
Mm.
we've never seen a situation, right? If you go through the entire House of Dragon where like two blondes make a a brunette with like a pug nose, especially when it's like a Valyria, right? And we
Yeah.
see what happens when Damon makes a kid with his the name Lena.
Lena. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Who
right, we
showed up
see.
in this episode, which is nice.
And honestly, it's way more obvious. Oh my God. I didn't even think, because, right. So if we know in the books, it's safe to assume, I've looked through, I assume that the Valerians are not black in the books or
They're not in the books now.
yeah, I've never, and actually, I think there's Orain Waters. I believe he's in the Game of Thrones books. He's the master of ships. He's a Valerian bastard.
Mhm.
And, basically she tries to pretend he's Rhaegar, right? So or Cersei.
Right.
So we know that he's definitely not. Yeah, obviously they're white, but so in this it is. I mean, given anything's possible, but that's like I don't even think that not only they're blonde, it's just like
It's
yeah,
not. Yeah, it's not possible.
but
The show one, probably just wanted to add more people of color, but two
yeah,
helps out with this storyline where it's like
yeah.
very
I just
obvious.
said I
Yeah,
just never thought about how it plugged the storyline more,
yeah.
where it's like this is a because in this it's like I mean
That's.
it's like
I
what
mean,
was it a
understandable
cover
why
what
Damon or
was it a
Amon was so upset.
yeah it's like was it a cover yeah like was it a cover up in the books like maybe but also in the books it's like well maybe they were just like hey this could happen.
Mm,
It is still pretty obvious, right? It's a little bit again it's like in the books it's more of the version kind of where we see with the how we find out that Joffrey isn't Robert's son, right? It's like the seed is
mm,
strong kind of thing, like something that definitely could, right? You're going to see something you're not going to want to believe it.
mm.
However, in this version, yeah, they did it in a very like clear Viserys, the sea snake. They know they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And
he
I thought
doesn't
that
care. He even says in the first season,
the sea snake is a
history,
great, yeah.
yeah, history doesn't remember people who they actually were. It doesn't remember blood. It remembers names. And these are my grandchildren, and we're just gonna fucking move forward.
Yeah, and I think it's perfect. I think given who the sea snake is, I did really like believe that. I was like, yeah, this is probably what he would do.
Yeah,
He wants all the influence and power and wealth he can gain for his house.
yeah.
Um,
And I think he really liked Luke. I think the show kind of went out of its way to be like, that's like his favorite grandson.
yeah, well, and I think again, it's probably, is it just like, his son has a place of influence. Is he just going to ignore his son, or is he going to, just better? It's probably better to him to be like, oh well, I know he probably didn't make a baby with a girl, but I mean, he's got a kid that
He's
he's saying is a baby. I'll
Yeah,
just,
and he's gonna be the king consort. It's fine.
yeah,
Yeah, so it makes sense. But yeah, I mean, uh great episode for Innes, obviously. Eve Best, the actress, amazing in the role. I thought she brought a lot of gravitas to the role, really made you feel like in those moments where she's singing up to Rhaenyra, to the council, where it's like in an alternate universe where she actually was the queen, she probably could have done a good job at it. And just, yeah, really phenomenal there. But very excited to see more of Alan in this, and Corliss's reaction to Rhaenys dying. It's going to be really, really big.
yeah, that's going to be huge. And I definitely agree with like Rhaenys. And again, it's kind of like it was like the last like real voice of reason she had, right? She kind of had this wisdom that was kind of grounding Rhaenyra from dealing with all of this.
Mhm.
In kind of a spiraling way. And we know that like kind of the only kind of counselor she's gonna have left. I think it's setting up for I can't think of her name right now. The lady that Damon was previously had a baby with that died.
Oh, not
Mm.
Missandre, Mysteria.
Yeah, yeah, Lady Misery. I think it's kind of setting that up, right? We're going to see that Rhaenyra is really lost, and yeah, for sure, we definitely see like yeah, Rhaenys. She did a great job with that role, and she definitely there was something that seemed very like distinguished and prolific. She seemed like very much just a lady of great dignity and like influence.
Yeah.
I honestly, I always thought kind of. I think what the people that were against her being royalty, I mean, for sure, I think what they were most worried about was putting the sea snake on the throne, because that's
Right.
basically what, right. And I think in the show it really sees them as a more equitable balance, like power couple, but a lot of things are implied in the books.
He's
So
also much older than her in the books.
yeah, in the books
He's
we definitely
30,
know that.
she's like 17 when they get
Yeah,
married.
and they are like a power couple for sure in the books, but it definitely we saw it more in the first season. I definitely thought maybe a little more of Corliss is definitely like a power grabber,
Mhm. Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
mean, we still see that, but he's really settled down at this point in the
He's
show.
old.
Yeah,
He's like in his 70s now.
yeah, he's like yeah, his grandsons on paper are gonna be kings. So I mean, he's got all
Yeah.
the wealth in the world.
Yeah. No, great. He's great too. So I'm gonna be very
Oh yeah.
interested to see. Let's see what else stood out of this episode. I really enjoyed Jason's reactions. I don't know. He's cracking me up. He was so stressed during all of
Oh
this.
yeah, being a huge honestly, the only way you can describe it is like, just like, dude, you're being a huge bitch. Shut up. Like, he's just like, well, what about, like, he's really trying, we see him just trying to insert himself, but we
But
also
I
see,
will let me. She wanted to go to fight, and he was like, "If you die, this
yeah,
is for nothing." The thing that Allison didn't say to Aegon, "If you die, this is nothing." He did say it to his mother, and I think that influenced her, because if she dies there, which I think she probably would have if she had gone to Vagar. I don't think it's Sunfire, right? That's her drag, or No, Cyrax.
Well, there's a little more leverage in
Or
its center.
what is her dragon's name, Ryan? Do you know?
I know.
I think it
But
is Cyrax, and then Damon's is Caraxes, right?
correct. Yeah, that I believe so. But that's a lot of dragon names. Keep up. I don't
So and they're all so similar.
yeah, I don't really trouble myself a ton with that. But I was just gonna say, I think it's like different kind of leverage between the two. Where I think that right, Jace kind of knows that if Rhaenyra dies, yeah, he's the heir, but I think he knows that
She needs to get on the throne first.
Yeah, and I also because I think he knows if she dies, people are gonna be like, "Well, he could be a bastard." He knows that is hanging over them, right? As where with Aegon, Aegon's already on the throne. Allison, you know, I do think in the show they've kind of shown Allison is probably most weary of Aemon. You know, she doesn't seem to like love his potential of just being an absolute killer, but you know, if Aegon dies, I mean, there's heirs, right? There's people that can come after.
Yeah. And well, I mean, she even says to Rhaenyra in the last episode, like, you know what Aemon is?
Yeah, that's what I mean. They do, and I think we don't really see that in the book or anything, but they imply that a lot in the show, that she kind of just thinks of Aemon as a monster, which to be fair, I thought the show did a better job of showing a more complete Aemon. That maybe but looking back at that last episode where you see him, or 2 episodes ago where you see him getting cuddled by the prostitute, and then we see his brother discovering him, you know, we kind of see this continued cycle where Aemon might be shown vulnerable, and right when he's made fun of or scoffed at, he's gonna, at this point, who he is, he's gonna respond in a very very dire way. Negative way. And as the woman that cuddles him was, hold on, I'm just putting my charger in.
You can keep talking.
As the woman who cuddles him was very quick to point out, you know, he's like, yeah, well, most people, you know, basically you have a huge dragon and a ton of power. And that is what he has, right?
Yeah.
But actually that just kind of brought me back to the dragon fight. I thought they did a pretty good job of showing, especially when Aegon comes in, we kind of see how dragons might fight. And also we see another example of, you know, he doesn't necessarily have a great grip on how to fight. Where he just says Dracarys, he's just like, oh, well, dragons breathe fire. If I breathe a bunch of fire, they're going to get damaged. But right, it's if you breathe all the fire at the dragon, probably I would assume the better way to damage a dragon is having them claw and bite each other, right?
Yeah.
And you wound them slowly and then fall off the rider. However, his brother, you know, he knows right when he sees him, he's like, and you know, he has a much better relationship, I assume, with his dragon. He knows to go with to you know, light the person on fire.
Yeah, go for the rider, and you know, I do think he's also just like, you know, I'll get breathe the fire so I have plausible deniability on whatever happens to Aegon here. But you know, if it burns him to death, it burns him to death. That's just war, I guess. But yeah, it was very interesting that they decided to go that way.
Oh, for sure.
Very interesting. We talked about it before we got on here, but now without, you know, they didn't include the other son in the show. So now Aemon is the heir. I'm sure that'll be described in the next episode. And, you know, he was making a power play for the throne. And, you know, we saw Rhaenyra telling Jace about the prophecy, the Song of Ice and Fire. We see Aemon pick up the dagger from a field of fire, and we know that he's very good in, you know, speaking Valerian. Would assume reading it too. Is there a chance we're going to find out that he sees the prophecy on the dagger going forward?
I think probably yes. Yeah,
I think so too. So a lot of layers to this. I like it. I know people get very upset, like it has to be just like the book. I don't agree with that. I think it's
No,
very
I
interesting.
think like you well, I think like you said, removing the other kid, it does make sense. It is a new way to look at it. And it just I think I said this before, like a lot of shows they just don't tend to go with the canon work. It just is what it is. Um, to stick to it completely. But I also think for the show, uh, yeah, I think it's also even looking in the books, it's plausible to me. Like it's like, oh, this probably didn't happen, but it could totally have been the case, right? We
Mhm.
don't, you know, Aemond is a little more calculated than that usually. Like in the books, it probably wouldn't. Right, it's not going to get him necessarily to the throne. But like, would I be super surprised if he was like, "Oh, maybe I injured my brother, and then I kind of can take, you know." Because I
Take
think
it.
in
Yeah.
the books, right, it's more. It would be more to become like what is it, king?
So I feel like in the books they call him Kinslayer for killing Luke.
They
Um,
do, yeah, they
but
do.
they didn't do that in the show. I don't know why.
Are you sure they didn't mention it all in the first season?
I don't because that ends
Or
with
no, it
him
ends. It
dying.
ends in the first season. I mean, the beginning. Yeah, you're kind of right, but I think it's just kind of
Implied, like
again.
how bad it is.
There is a different unfolding of events in the book as well.
Mm,
Um, like uh, by the time I
yeah,
think by the time that happens, I believe Damon has already taken Harrenhal in the books.
right.
Right.
Eamon did that shit on purpose in the books also. Like there was no accidentally killing his
No, but he did
nephew.
say, yeah, but he did say he felt bad about it and that
Oh
he was,
sure, yeah.
and he made the mistake. I think he admitted it was a mistake, but yeah, he was like going after me. He's like, I'm gonna kill him.
Yeah. Whereas in the show, I think very much not even implies, it's just pretty much like, yeah, he didn't mean to do that. Um, but you play the hand you're out. I don't think he's losing sleep over it either.
And what's kind of interesting is in the books, like you said, with that, and it's almost like right doesn't is it I think Otto says to him at the beginning, you have to be more patient because your
Yeah.
brother isn't. And we do know that Aegon is very impulsive, but I would say that up to this up to this point we kind of saw Aemon in a certain way to at times demonstrate a little more patience at
Yeah.
times. In the books there are more glimpses of his anger and how
Yeah.
it can impact him. And we'll see that a little later. Speaking of which, I mean, I guess we could talk about Damon and Alice Rivers a little bit.
Yeah.
I thought
But
the Alice,
I do want to also call out Otto has such a banger line in the books where he's like, "You only lost one eye. How could you be so blind?" To
oh,
Aemon, which like disappointed we didn't get that in the show.
yeah, and it's a pretty good way of speaking of who he is.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, let's talk about this freaky witch messing with Damon's head in Harrenhal. Just really fun character and really fun like direction, I feel like, for
It's
this character.
it's very like well, you had said Harrenhal. It's got a little bit of dark fantasy. It's very if you've read any like King Arthur stuff, it's
Mm,
very like Morgan Le Fay,
mm,
like like kind of like with the Irish accent, kind of like magical witch, like um, you know. I thought it very much had that kind of vibe to it. Is what they're kind of
yeah.
going for.
And I would say Alice Rivers and Helena would probably get along so well.
And
But both just weird girls. They would, talk about weird shit together, make potions, be a good time.
I think Alice seems to have a lot more awareness and purpose.
Darkness. Oh yeah. Awareness. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
My version of Helena is still the one in the books. Just
Mm.
just a
It's a very
sweetheart.
pleasant, yeah, pleasant character who doesn't deserve any. Not that Helena in the show deserves any
Anything.
horrible shit that just happened to her. Um, but yeah, no, I love this adaptation of Alice Rivers. I love what the actress is, giving with her performance, and I think their scenes together are very fun.
With her and Damon. Yeah, it is
Yeah,
interesting. Where she definitely, oddly, um, kind of has seems to have some leverage over Damon. And it
mm,
definitely dares to say some stuff that no one would normally say to him. And
Mhm.
it kind of makes it very unclear. She's kind of like, I know this stuff, but does that mean that she's the one making all this happen? Not
Mhm.
necessarily. We really don't
Yeah, I know. Aaron Hall has weirwood, like weirwood trees growing through it.
know.
Like those are magical in of themselves. Like that could be messing with Damon here. I did really, really appreciate that they used this to bring back Millie Acock um as Renera, and really really putting that relationship in perspective. Like they're putting her in um the other actors' clothes and like crown, like the adult Renera, um Emma Darcy. They're putting uh Millie Acock Alcock in Emma Darcy's clothes that are much too big for her, the crown that's too big for her, like really pushing this like Damon, was lusting after a child who's now in,
Mhm.
this position.
And he looks
And
basically the same. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I just really fun. She's great. She was such a standout in the first season.
For sure. Yeah.
Um,
I would agree.
so very fun to have her back torturing Damon. Um, and Lena torturing Damon, which is very fun because also, a lot of stuff to be tortured about there.
Oh, yeah.
Um, what did you think of him telling the Tully boy to just kill his grandfather and get it over with?
It was very Damon-ish.
Yeah.
I could, yeah, just kind of like saying it where he's like, it's kind of like, is he kidding? But no, he's probably not. He's just like,
No, it's not at all.
yeah, and that's right. That's kind of Damon's thing. I think it was perfect. I think like that, especially we got like a piece of like that just felt like Damon the most,
Mhm.
because we see him losing himself here a little bit, and this has kind of got like a Shining vibe to it, where it's like, is it the place he's staying at? Is it him? Honestly, a lot of it might just be him going crazy.
Yeah.
um, right. So but yeah, I loved that scene with the young Tully, and I was actually just thinking, man, the Game of Thrones TV show, they just a lot, and this series.
Oh, we lost your mic again.
They're not. They don't think too highly of the Tullys, or at least they don't paint them in
No,
the
not
greatest.
the heirs. They're so mean about you know, Catelyn's brother like is not a joke in the books. And he's
Yeah,
been a complete joke. He's like a good ruler for the people of the Riverlands
he's like
in the book.
unsure of himself a little bit, I think, and he's not like the strongest fighter or anything necessarily, but he's just a pretty solid dude. And I think honestly is someone Rob very much looks up to.
And he fights for Rob. Like he goes against Tywin's army, like in the Riverlands for Rob. Like
Yeah, and this
in
just
the
kind of
show, they made him such a joke. It was so disappointing.
yeah, they perpetuate. I mean, we could go on. We were
Yeah.
talking, I think, about Loris before, how they really kind of did his character dirty. I felt like
Yeah.
there's a bunch of there's only so much you can do. It is what it is. But no, I
Yeah.
just thought it was a reiteration of that, where it was
He
like,
was. He
kind of saying
hates the
like,
Tullys. I don't
yeah,
get it.
Tullys are soft as fuck, is what.
Most of most of the Stark children, other than all of them except for John, are half Tully. Also, like I don't know why they want us to dislike this house.
Yeah, not
Especially
really
the
sure.
Blackfish. They did make him a badass.
Yeah, for sure. There's no way you can't make it. I mean, the Blackfish is like just a badass.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, what do you think of the return of Willem Blackwood? All grown up here, still loves Rhaenyra, but more in a respect way than in a lustful way or anything.
Yeah, but he kind of applied, like, the way he said, he's like, I mean, he goes, kudos to you, man. I'd hit it. I'd still hit it too. Basically, is the way
Like,
he's kind of.
yeah,
And
you know,
Damon is still pretty able to be pretty rude to him, but we don't see Damon have quite right because he's so disheveled. It's literally he's like, I'm tripping balls. I don't know where I am or who you are.
right?
we don't quite see like the normal response we get from Damon, you know?
Yeah, I think very brave of Willow to just say that to Damon.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
so maybe Damon's like, you know what? You guys have already fought a battle for Nara, and also kind of, like your vibe, man. I don't know. You're fucking crazy. I'm into that.
Well, yeah, he's definitely bold, right? And but I think doesn't even Damon says he's like, you don't care about our feud, you care about your fucking little petty feud with the Brackens you've been having going on for
Yeah.
hundreds of years, and he knows that, and he's going to use it to his advantage.
Right. Right. Yeah. That he's like, and honestly, very petty of you guys to hold on to this for so long. I do respect that.
Yeah,
Like, you're fucking crazy. All of you are so crazy.
yeah. I think in this instant, he's just so out of it. He's just like, yeah, sure, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure, it was kind of interesting to have him back.
I know. I'm excited to see more of him as the show goes on. I think
Okay.
people really enjoyed him in his very brief appearance in season
Hmm.
one. And I
Oh,
think
true. Yeah,
very good casting too for the older version
yeah, it
here.
was. Yeah, I'd say so.
So yeah, gotta give that a shout out. Let's see, anything else from this episode? I don't think there was much. Do you have anything else you wanted to touch on that we haven't?
No, not really. I'm just trying to with the Brackens and the Blackwoods in the episode before. I'm just trying to which one is which because I don't know about you in books.
The
I've always
Blackwoods are the ones with the black and
no, I
red.
know. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know that. I'm saying like was it like the really skinny kid that was the Blackwood or was he the Bracken?
Yes. Yeah. The really skinny, small guy was in season one was the Willem Blackwood
But
who
I'm
came
saying
back.
yeah, no, I know that, but I'm saying in the last was at the beginning of the last episode. There were the two.
Yeah, the Blackwoods were the ones in black and red, and the Brackens were in yellow and black.
But the kid, so was the Bracken the really skinny kid with the long hair, or was that at the
That
Bracken?
was that was the Bracken. Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's what I thought, and it was just interesting to me because I don't know about you. I've always kind of pictured the Blackwoods as like probably like a little taller, and it might not be the case, like more like lanky, skinnier, and the Brackens more being kind of like stockier, more like stout, like kind of fighter types, you know. And that might be like that might just literally be from I don't know if House of Dragon is going to go into other Targaryen stories, but that might be from the two bastard brothers
Mhm.
from Bracken and Blackwood.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see. I guess I haven't really thought too much about um what my head canon was for them.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
never really considered it. But yeah, I do like the adaptation, and we didn't talk about it because it was the last episode,
yeah.
but
It's good.
I thought it was good. I thought it was a good adaptation of the burning mill fight. People were upset. People are always upset, but
Oh yeah, can't
people were
please
upset that
everyone.
they didn't show it. And it's like, yeah, but they can't show every single battle, and there's also no POV main characters there.
And
You know,
yeah, exactly. And it's more kind of just showing like right this petty feud between the Targaryens. It's trickling down and enabling petty feuds within the kingdom they conquered years ago, and that this is going to create a lot of pointless bloodshed.
exactly. So I liked it. They got to save their budget for the dragon battles, guys. Like,
Really, it's really fucking expensive. That
yeah,
one scene this time was probably like millions of dollars. Yeah, I can't even guesstimate.
yeah. Whereas a shot of tons of dead bodies in a burning mill was like quite adequate to communicate that this is fucked up. A lot of people died for nothing, really. Um, yeah, so I liked that.
Yeah,
Is
that
that
was good.
thunder on your end?
Was what?
Oh, did it just thunder on your end?
Thunder? No, I don't think so.
I don't know. Just some feedback then, maybe. But anyways, anything you want to promote? Anything like that before we get out of here?
No, not that I could think of. Just keep watching the show. Hopefully, we'll be back soon. Keep talking. I'm very excited to see what unfolds.
Mhm.
thought every episode, this might have been because of the ending, it was just like maybe the most exciting, but this season especially, I feel like has been the most consistent. Like last season, there were some ups and downs, and like the end of the season, I felt like was like really strong. As where this, like just every episode's been a banger. So it's been pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I think it helps that they're not trying to adapt 20 years into 10 episodes here. Like they were in the first season, where it's kind of getting a little bit bogged down in fitting everything in.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right. So other than that, if you enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel, follow on podcast services. The main channel is, of course, We Hate Everything. We also do a sports channel sometimes. Haven't done a new video in 2 months, but
Oh, true. Yeah,
we'll,
that's
we'll
why.
figure something out there for Wicked Good Sports. But yeah, other than that, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.